Hello, my name is Jacquelyn Molina, and I'm a board certified behavior analyst. Welcome to today's talk, Addressing Attention Seeking Behavior in the Classroom, where I'll be training you on different strategies you can use to address your students who are acting out in class for a reaction from you or from their classmates. Let's first refresh. How do we know when our learners are misbehaving and really just looking for attention? That is the attention function of a behavior. Attention seeking behaviors are behaviors done to seek an interaction or feedback from someone. The consequences of attention can be considered positive, such as when you receive praise from someone, or attention can be considered negative, such as when you receive a reprimand. Attention also doesn't have to be in the form of words. It can even be considered a look or laughter from peers in the classroom. Let's go over an example of attention broken down into ABC. So in this situation, let's go over this first chart at the top. So we have our antecedent. Our teacher asked Tommy if he's enjoying his lunch. What is this behavior that is not so desirable? We see Tommy opens his mouth and shows his chewed up food. How does the teacher respond? The consequence that we see here, the teacher tells Tommy that it's not polite. He's receiving a reprimand, some negative attention. So what is Tommy trying to say by opening up his mouth? Let's look at another example. The same example, rather flipped, with desired behavior. We see the teacher again asking Tommy if he is enjoying his lunch, approaching him, giving him an opportunity for interaction. Tommy then swallows and says, "Pretty good, Miss Wilson." So we see him responding back, giving appropriate attention. And what's our consequence here? We see our teacher smiling and walking away. So she was able to give that look, that positive attention. Now that we remember what those attention-seeking behavior look like and what are usual consequences that keep our students motivated to behave in that way, let's go over what you'll be learning today to help those students that are acting out for attention. As a result of this webinar, you should feel more confident in addressing these attention-seeking behaviors, as you should be able to identify steps to implement different strategies such as pivotal praise, priming, and non-contingent reinforcement. And all of these methods are used to address problem behaviors in the classroom. The first strategy we'll be going over today is called pivotal praise. To use this strategy, you need to have other students in close proximity to the student that is acting out. So we already know that the student is looking for some type of reaction from their teacher or perhaps from their classmate that's sitting close by. Therefore, we're going to use those classmates that are sitting nearby to our advantage. So pivotal praise means praising the classmate nearby that is doing what you want your disruptive student to have been doing all along. This will cause your misbehaving student to look towards that peer that's being praised or getting the attention that they want. So that peer they're looking at is serving as a model. And it's a model to them as what they should be doing and what happens when they do it. To make this concept a bit clearer, I have an example for you. So we're going to focus our attention on the child that is holding the video game controller. Let's say he continues to make animal noises during the game to get a reaction from everybody else. So this starts becoming extremely disruptive. And we want to get him to participate the way that other students are by making comments on the game, perhaps laughing. To use pivotal praise to address this, we want to praise a peer nearby. So look at the student with the red jacket. That student just said, "Look, a monster," and starts laughing. What you're going to do is you're going to give attention to that student. You can call out exactly what they're doing that's earning your attention. You can do this by saying, "Steve, you're so good at telling us about the cool stuff in this game. That monster looks so funny." So this tells the other student that was doing the animal noises that you're going to give your attention when someone participates by commenting and not when they're giving disruptive sounds. So it's important to know that while you're giving attention to that peer, you should also refrain from comments on the problem behavior, on that attention seeking behavior that you're trying to get rid of. In this example, it would be those sounds. This pivotal praise makes the student that is disruptive less motivated to do the disrupting behavior because they aren't getting what they want out of it. You're giving attention to the peer. So let's keep practicing to really understand the concept of pivotal praise. In this next example, we have Susie interrupting the lesson. So while the class is working on the alphabet, doing corresponding of the letters with their teacher, Susie starts screaming out different words and laughing. The teacher tells Susie to pay attention every time that she hears Susie screaming. Susie just continues acting out, keeps screaming. She's much more interested in having her teacher get upset and tell her something than actually being part of the lesson. Pivotal praise is one of the most useful strategies we'll be discussing today because it can be used to prevent attention seeking behavior and also used to manage it. Let me explain how. As I mentioned before, pivotal praise is when you praise the students around the disruptive behavior. You're praising those students for doing a behavior you want the disruptive student to be doing. In the picture on the bottom right of the slide, we have Susie circled, sitting in the back of the class. To let Susie know what will get her attention, the teacher can praise students as soon as she starts the lesson and before Susie starts screaming. So the teacher will implement pivotal praise by telling the girl sitting in front of Susie, "I love that clap every time you say a letter." This will tell Susie how she can expect to get her teacher to look at her. And this prevents the behavior because it's before Susie even has a chance to misbehave and to start her screaming. You can also use this strategy of pivotal praise to manage the behavior, like I mentioned. You can do this by praising the other students in the same way that I mentioned, but this time it would be after the screaming starts. So you're still motivating Susie to start doing what the other students are doing because you're praising that student without giving a reaction to Susie. And as I mentioned before, it's important that throughout the use of this strategy, you do not comment or give any attention to Susie for what she's doing to inappropriately seek that attention. So even a look can be considered attention. You want to have Susie try another behavior to get the attention she's seeking so badly. And you've been giving attention to other students when they clap, so she might as well start doing that if she wants her teacher to look at her. Let's move on to our next strategy, priming. This is an explanation of what will happen and what is expected for an upcoming activity. This can alert your student on what they need to do, what changes to come, and what they need. This can be delivered written, such as on a board or a poster in the classroom, or it can be delivered verbally. Since priming lets someone know what they can anticipate, this tactic usually results in students feeling more prepared and less anxious. In relation to addressing attention seeking behavior, this approach can make it clear when and how they'll get attention. You're setting up expectations for your classroom activities. When you give your students the priming statement or the list, you can give examples of what you expect. And this further helps establish clear expectations by modeling what the appropriate behavior looks like through examples. Here are some examples of what priming looks like when used in the classroom. You can verbally state the expectations by warning students of what to come. If you have a student that approaches you many times during a transition, or let's say they use that time to become disruptive and distract the other students, let's say your student is bored and they're not sure what to do, right? You want to make the instructions very clear during that transition. For example, you can say, "In 5 minutes, we'll start group time. If you need help or want to talk to me, raise your hand and I'll come to you." So this lets the student know what they're supposed to be doing and how to interact with the teacher. Since expectations are clear and the student is less motivated to look for attention in creative and disorderly behavior, you're probably going to see that appropriate behavior come out more. Priming can also be used with visuals. You want to make sure you customize this strategy to your student, though. If your student needs simple instructions or even does better with visuals, try using priming this way. This here is an example of a visual. You want to convey to your students that their worksheets need to be put in blue bins in their designated areas, for example. You have the instruction written and with clear pictures of what you are referring to. This can be put, let's say, on the desk of each student. This can be made large and taped to the board at the front of the room. This can even be at the teacher's desk for a quick redirection when students go up to the teacher and ask about their work. This could even help you decrease the amount of times students start acting up when they're done with work and even when they're going up to your desk with their paper. For this last example, we'll further talk about how to customize your priming. The priming statement for this example is, when the bell rings in a few minutes, you need to grab your lunchbox and stand in line. We can talk when we walk through the doors of the lunchroom. Some attention-seeking behaviors this can address include students acting out in line. Let's say students become bored and acting out with sounds or actions because they don't know what to do during that transition. So you tell your students what they need to do and when they can expect to interact with you most during that time. So it's a good time to give praise or even a thumbs up as they do these actions that you're asking them. We would consider this free attention, and it'll set you up for success because you're incentivizing them to behave that way in the future, since it earns them that positive attention from you. You can say this statement aloud before lunch. You can have this written on the board. You can even have pictures as a quick reminder of these expectations too. Let's continue to practice the implementation of this priming strategy. So in this situation, we have students working in stations on individual projects. Shortly after this activity starts, our main learner here, Alyssa, stands up from her chair and she runs to her teacher to show her paper. The teacher responds by telling Alyssa that she's doing a good job, but she needs to sit down and raise her hand if she wants to talk to her. Alyssa, what she's doing is she's looking for praise on her work from her teacher. The teacher can then curb this behavior so that the other students don't all start crowding her desk and getting out of their seats to do the same thing. Priming can be used by having the teacher announce or have written what should be done if the students are completed with their work or if they need help. So this announcement should be delivered before the station work even starts. Some expectations that the teacher can announce as part of the priming statement could be to raise a card for help, raise hand to call over the teacher, or even tell students to put the page in the completed bucket on the table. This sets up expectations so that Alyssa, our learner, can seek her teacher's attention in a way that doesn't disrupt the class. So therefore, the student knows the rule and when to expect the attention. As a result, the teacher should get fewer interruptions and outbursts during that group work because expectations are very clear. Some tips to remember when you're implementing the strategies. Make sure to keep your praise and the instructions you give very clear, straightforward, very simple. Use visuals when they're available, and using timers can serve as a great reminders for both you and your students. And lastly, it's very important to be consistent with your reminders and with the praise that you're giving. Our next strategy today is called non-contingent reinforcement, or NCR. We usually want to give praise or attention to someone when they're doing something correctly, or even when they're doing an action or a behavior that we want to see, so that that student knows that they're doing something correctly. NCR might initially seem a little counterintuitive because it doesn't rely on your student per se doing something they're supposed to be doing, but it's a powerful strategy when you do implement it correctly. NCR is when you give attention regardless of what the student is doing, whether they're doing a certain behavior or something that you're specifically looking for. What you're doing is you're trying to catch them doing something correctly. You want to deliver attention on a schedule. Let's say you give one of your students a thumbs up every 5 minutes, or every 10 minutes, you tell one of your students, keep it up, Josie. So by giving that regular attention, your students won't be as motivated to act out. But be mindful of your timing. If it just so happens that every time you give your learner a thumbs up, they're yelling or they're bothering their peer, you're probably going to want to adjust the time to either give attention on a shorter schedule or a longer schedule to avoid coinciding with that attention seeking behavior. If you happen to give attention once or twice to the problematic behavior, it's okay. Just don't make a habit of it and keep adjusting and monitoring your learner. Another consideration when picking your attention schedule is to vary this time. This way, your learner is still receiving consistent attention, but if you praise them at a 5 minute mark and then at a 10-minute mark, that alternating at times will make the student behave for longer because they're waiting for praise since they know it's coming, but they're not sure exactly when. Let's go over another example. To have a teacher student stop calling out and disrupting the class while he's trying to teach, this teacher is calling on his attention-seeking student on every third question. This way, the student is looking forward to the next time they'll be called on to get attention from that teacher instead of not knowing when attention will come and shouting and making noises in class instead. Ways you can remind yourself of this schedule is with the use of timers, or you can even quickly tally mark on the board the number of questions you have asked. Find a system that works for you. We went over a lot of great strategies today. Let's recap them. First, we have pivotal praise. That's when you bring attention to what the peers are doing correctly around your disruptive student. Priming is a reminder of what to do. And lastly, non-contingent reinforcement, or NCR, is giving attention on a schedule and not when a specific behavior is happening. The strategies we spoke about today all highlight motivating the student to seek attention appropriately, whether it is by highlighting what a peer is doing, by praising their classmates, or by creating an environment where attention is consistently available. I would like to leave you with some final ideas on ways to continuing to motivate your students to seek out attention appropriately. First off, classroom jobs are a great way for your student to gain attention. Your learners can easily get attention by being helpful in an easy way, such as holding the door or passing out paper even. Not only will they be getting a smile and thanks from the teacher, this gives them opportunities to interact with their classmates and get smiles and thanks from the classmates as well. Not to mention the importance of satisfaction of being that one special student in charge of an important role in the class. So this student can anticipate when attention is coming since the job is done at a certain time every day. Similarly, creating a system of morning greetings starts off the day by giving your student attention. So this interaction also models a way for the student to approach and initiate that attention seeking with their teacher. So it's a great learning opportunity for them. Lastly, you want to schedule times throughout the day when your students can naturally gain attention from their peers. This way, your student is less motivated to act out for a reaction from their peers during a lesson or in a transition. Some examples can be setting up games that involve turn taking or even working on a project as a group. I'd like to close out my training today with some final takeaways. Remember to give specific and immediate praise to desired behavior, such as saying, "Great job raising your hand," as soon as your student raises their hand. Make sure to be consistent with your attention by creating a schedule for yourself or a system. And lastly, be intentional with the attention you give. You want to pay attention to appropriate behaviors and not comment or focus on that inappropriate behavior. Thank you all for your time today, and I hope these strategies serve you well in the classroom. You can find my contact information available on the screen.
Thank you, Jackie. Anybody has any questions, please let us know. You can also email us and we will happily respond to any questions.